we have the first brewery from Northern Ireland here on the UK Brewery Project. It's Heaney. Heaney's Brewery is based at the Wood on the Heaney family farm on the outskirts of Derry, which is in County Derry, County Londonderry. The brewery was started by Malcolm Mackay and his wife Suzanne, who is actually the niece of the late Seamus Heaney. So Seamus was a famous poet who won a Nobel Prize in Literature in 1995, and he also had a spell as professor at Harvard University and was their poet in residence, along with being a professor of poetry at Oxford University. Seamus grew up on the family farm, and although there is a brewery there now, it's still a working family farm run by Seamus's brother Hugh. So Malcolm was the driving force behind setting up the brewery. He was working at a guitar store, but had taken the decision to pack in a job and focus entirely on his home brewing. He had his sights set on setting up a brewery at the farm itself, and he went to chat to Matthew Dick, who is based at Boundary Brewery, who are in Belfast. And this was in about September 2015 he'd done that. So Boundary Brewing, or Brewery, are a cooperative brewery where anyone can pay the required £100 to become a member in that cooperative business. So while he was there talking to the team, he ended up helping out, shoveling out the mash tun, and this led to him actually joining and working / training at the brewery. So whilst at the brewery, he produced beers from a wide variety of beer styles. In December 2016, the first beer under the Heaney Farmhouse Brewery brand was released, and obviously it was brewed at the Boundary Brewery. So I believe the first beer to be red ale, though it could be the Irish stout. They both seem to be released around the same time. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go for the red ale because I think it'll be a bit easier to handle. I don't feel in the mood for a stout. So I'm going to crack open the lovely red ale bottle they got here. There we go. Cap over there. My glass is still a bit wet, but it shouldn't impact it. Alright, get most of that out into the glass. Put the lid back on. And let's get a sniff of this red ale. Okay, a lot of malty nose coming off it there. A big malty nose. It is clearly red, as you can see in here. That's definitely a red ale. Yeah. All right, let's have a taste. That's very malty, very malty. It's nice though. First quencher. Well, find out if that is the first beer of the day. It's going down the treat already. That is a solid red ale. I'll definitely say that's a solid red ale. It's got all the properties that you would expect, but it's actually, yeah, it's very sessionable, it feels. It was 4.2, 4.3, what is this again? 4.5, there we go. It's in session territory. That is a really good product. I don't feel I have enough red ales, to be fair, and Irish red is a category on its own as well. But yeah, that's really good. That is really nice. So Malcolm, I said, brewed these two or launched these two when he was at the Boundary Brewery, and he worked there for 3 years, which he said in an interview I've seen were the most stressful but rewarding time that he spent there. And during which time, I said, he worked on creating these beers, but also creating other beers in the range and just fine-tuning this core range of his for Heaney. So how it works at the brewery was he was working for the brewery he was working with Boundary Brewery doing their beers, but because he worked for them, in return he got some time to brew his own beers on their equipment and make these Heaney brands. That's my understanding of it. So it meant he was brewing for 2 different breweries at the same time, really, if you think about it. So it would have been a hectic and busy work schedule. In 2018, Malcolm and his wife submitted plans to build a brewery on the family farm, for which I believe they had been raising financing for the year prior at that stage. In June 2018, District Council gave the green light to their brewery and exhibition plans as well. So they had like an exhibition or something to do with the history of the farm and everything to do with it. So it was double plan. So their aim was to begin production by November 2018 at their new microbrewery using water that actually was going to come from a borehole underneath the brewery on the farm. It should be mentioned during this stage that Heaney beers obviously were still being brewed at Boundary, and they were being sold to independent off-licenses across Northern Ireland, along with some of them actually being exported out to France and Denmark. He, alongside obviously continued to brew these beers and working for Boundary Brewery, he was working on dealing with contractors and building this new brewery and buying all the equipment that he needed. I read that on his blog, he'd given much thought about whether to buy second-hand or first-hand brewing equipment. And he ended up buying, obviously, brand new first-hand equipment from TNT of China. The brewery, though, wasn't set up and producing beer before Christmas 2018 as they planned. In fact, the first brews to come off the new production line wasn't until March 2019. I understand that the brewery is very green on the credentials, I must say. They use biogas for heating the boilers, and they try to be green in everything they do, and obviously the water's coming from their own land, and then it's in glass and can, which are recyclable. For their launch in 2019, they rebranded. So they actually remove the word, they renamed their company. So they were down as Heaney Farmhouse, but they're now just Heaney, and it says Farmhouse down in bottom. So they're known as Heaneys now. And they also done these lovely labels that they've got here looking brilliant. They also branched out into canning alongside their bottle range that they're only doing at this stage. So Malcolm does the bulk of the brewing, or I think he does most of the brewing work, along with his wife doing admin work, and I think she does the admin work alongside a part-time job that she holds elsewhere. And they have a lady from California that does marketing and sales for them as well. In 2020, Heaney struck a distribution deal with Beer 52 for selling of their beers in Great Britain. So it was a huge order, which required them to dedicate most of their brewing time to supplying the Heaney Stout that had been ordered. Their other beer stock during this time dwindled, but after they completed their stout order, they had plenty of tank space to then set about brewing their other beers. Unfortunately, COVID and lockdown hit. Beer 52 changed their focus on supporting local English breweries, and the pubs and restaurants in Northern Ireland were all closed. Off sales aren't permitted by breweries in Northern Ireland, and I also believe they're not allowed tap rooms as such either in the breweries. So you can understand it was a very difficult period for the brewery, and questions were raised about whether to halt production. But they decided to push ahead and continue brewing, which worked to their advantage when the off-sale shops reopened not soon after. From what I can see, they still have a good working agreement and partnership with Beer 52, but I don't believe their beers have been picked up again. And Heaney's have just been surviving off third-party sales in Northern Ireland, which is including from McSwiggan's, where I purchased all these beers. Gotta love that name, McSwiggan's. Brilliant. Now, I've got the red. I'm going to try one of their cans, which is... these are classics, and these are probably more interesting variants. So we've got a Can't Catch Me Imperial Stout, Impy Stout, yep, gingerbread stout. But I'm going to go for a lovely New England IPA. So I've got my glass, which again is slightly still wet because I only just washed them before coming on. Or re-rinsed them, I should say. And here we go. That smells good. Here we go. We can see a lot of carbonation rushing up. Oh wow, that's lovely. Should put it around the right way. Now, New England for me always sort of means NEPA, New England IPA, hazy. This is slightly hazy, not along the levels I was perhaps expecting, but that's not necessarily the description of New England. New England's all about the hop level as well, so it's unfiltered and the hop that they use. And it just smells so beautiful, that hop. Wow, it's I'm trying to think what it reminds me of. It reminds me of the sweet, actually. It's what's sweet? I can't think off the top of my head. Right, I'm gonna have a sip and see what I think. Yeah. Surprisingly, there's a lot of flavour there, but then it also doesn't feel like there's too much. I mean, there's loads on the nose, and you get a huge mouth-watering flavour from that hop. Lovely citrus notes, but I would say it's just not too overpowering, so making it sessionable, considering it is again 5.7. Yeah, sessionable, within the realms of sessionable at that stage. Yeah, I think it's worthwhile sort of covering a bit of Northern Ireland and the off-sales elements, because it does impact all the breweries in Northern Ireland, including Heaney's that we're looking at here. So when it comes to the off-sales, I understand that some of the breweries have come together to form a new campaign group that are seeking to change the law to allow breweries to sell direct and from their own tap rooms, just like in Great Britain. And I think they're being supported by SEBA and CAMRA. And it makes sense. The way they put it is the only way they can sell their product is via a third party. They can't sell it direct, which sounds absolutely bizarre for a business. You create a business and you can't sell your product apart from through a third party. I did not know that was the law out there in Northern Ireland, and I wish them all the best with changing that. It doesn't make sense, and this current situation is showing up the difficulty if the shops are closed, how the brewery and the pubs, how the brewery is supposed to get their product out the door. Right, I think we're up to date with Heaney's. They've managed to pull through and survive on this difficult period. They still don't seem to have a good supply agreement in GB, so I've had to bring these over from Ireland, in a sense, to bring them here. But let's run through their core range. So to start with, we have the Irish Stout, which is 4.3%, which I believe is their biggest seller. And I think they weren't expecting it to be as big as it is, but people, love stouts, and the idea is it's different than your Nitro Guinness and all the rest that's out there. We have the Irish Red, which I said comes in at 4.5%. Oh, that's good. I believe the New England IPA over here, the 5.7% New England IPA, is a permanent as well. Yes. They've got one that's called just Indian Pale Ale, which is West Coast Indian Pale Ale. Just double checking what one I had there. Yeah, an Irish Pale Ale over there. So they've got Double Pale Ale, which is, I think, 5%. We've got the Irish White Ale, which is 4.8. And then we've got the blonde over here, isn't it? Yeah, the Irish blonde, which is 4.3%. They do some seasonal beers as well, as you would expect. So they've got Way Over Yonder, which is a 5.7% farmhouse ale. Long Shadows, which is a 6% porter that they put out in the wintertime. And Big Little IPA, which is a 4.2% session IPA. And they do specials. Specials such as as alluded to before, the Catch Me 8.5% Imperial Gingerbread Stout. Wow, crazy. I can see they also have one called, I've seen they had one called I Can See the Stars, which was 11.5% Impy Stout, which sounds impressive as well. And they had Gone West IPA, which is a 5.9% West Coast IPA. But they've got plenty of others as well, like the Anywhere Under the Sun, which is a lemon pale ale at 3.5%. Yeah, so it's like an American APA, American pale ale, I mean. So they're the beers: Cause, Seasonal, and then Special. And we're now on to the last bit, awards. So I know Heaney Brewery have won some awards when they cuckoo brewed at Boundary, but I've not actually seen anything related to awards since they moved into their own brewery. Not saying they haven't, I just haven't seen anything, and considering the time frame of moving in 2019 and then lockdown the following year, it doesn't surprise me. There's not really been many beer festivals or awards at that stage. But there we go. That is Heaney Brewery, the first one from Northern Ireland. And I shall see you next time on the UK Brewery Project. Take care. Cracking beer.